Hey guys, welcome to Broad Street to Britain with me, Dave Shaw, and it's great to be back. Great to be talking Phillies, and well, there's not a lot happening, but sort of is, but isn't, but is, but is, but isn't. You know, there's a lot going on, a lot of rumors flying around. The stove is simmering at the moment. It is me, Dave Shaw, and I'm joined. It's great to have him back. Alex Carr is back. Alex, how are you, buddy?
Hello, Dave. Always great to be here. Very excited. I have been taking a nice social media cleanse. It's been awesome, but I'm here to talk some baseball, and I'm very, very excited.
Yes. Back to business. Alex, the biggest question I've been asked by everybody is Alex Carr coming onto Blue Sky? There is a noticeable Alex Carr space. Where are you, buddy? Everyone's jumping over. Everyone's on Blue Sky. Twitter numbers are falling. Blue Sky numbers are rising. There's no Alex Carr. Where are you?
I already have an account. It's there. I just, I don't know. Twitter became a very interesting place towards the end of last season, and it's become even more interesting since a certain event that happened at the beginning of this month. And so I can pretty much guarantee that I will be reluctant to be continuing to put out content over there, but we'll see. We'll see how things go. Ultimately, I'm just really excited to have a new place to chat about things, regardless of how active I am or not. So I promise, as soon as I'm ready to jump back in and dive back in, I'll post that on Twitter, and everyone can come on over and say hey. And from what Dave has told me, it's like old Twitter, which is really exciting.
Twitter, Alex. It's like a bit harmonious. It's a positive place. It's old Twitter, at the moment, because the Twitter numbers are dwindling quickly. Yeah. Blue Sky numbers are rocketing, and it's just it's already feels like a community, like with the Phils fans, Philly sports in general community, and it's at the moment. Touch wood, we're off to a good start. Blue skies, well, sky's the limit. And we have, again, I know, terrible, Richard Skinner on his second show. Now, those of you who are listening for the first time in a while or didn't listen to the last pod, Richard is fairly new to the Phillies. This is his first proper off-season, and he's gonna go through it with us because it can be interesting. It can be lively. We've got some interesting dates coming up next week, which should, one of them, hopefully being Zach Wheeler's Cy Young. But we've got some deadlines next week, GM meetings next week, and hopefully things are going to start getting discussed and things may start happening. But Richard, how are you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. It's good to be back. My voice is much better this time.
I can hear you now. Yeah,
I know. Yeah, it was a struggle last week. It started off okay. By the end, I was like, I need to stop talking now. But yeah, I'm good.
Richard was also out in Philly a couple of weeks ago with the British and Irish Eagles, which I had the pleasure of spending time with him and the other guys in the British and Irish Eagles in they had the dream trip. You guys covered it all. You have basically the VIP package for the Eagles, right?
Yeah, well, we had great seats sort of behind the goal. We got a stadium tour the day before. Wow. We had a great tailgate before. I like my first proper tailgate. We had two tailgates, in fact. We went to two different ones. Hence my lack of voice last time.
Oh yeah, you lived up to.
I'm recovered now.
Time I saw you, there was never not a beer in your hand, mate.
Oh, I don't know. You saw me at the Sixers game. I was struggling at the Sixers game.
It was wild. That was my first time. I did the tailgate. Didn't go to the game. I had to get to Baltimore and fly back. So it was my first time experiencing Eagles tailgate. And just seeing you guys in your element was awesome for me to see. Like it's just great that you guys get to feel it for the first time. I've done the Phillies tailgates, and they are fantastic, a lot of fun. But Eagles tailgates are off the charts.
Nothing like it.
And then Robert De Niro turns up like right in front of me, and all of a sudden I'm in the middle of this political rally with De Niro and John Kerry doing a speech like 2 foot in front of me, and I'm in the background of all these pics going, "Oh, this is terrible. I'm international. This has nothing to do with me." But it was wild. A lot of fun. A lot of great food, great drink. And but at the same time, I was looking at the bank going, I miss the Phils. And what team are we going to have for the Phillies next year is going to be interesting because, as Passan broke on Twitter and in the news. Is it by Bohm? Is Alec Bohm on the trade block according to Jeff Passan? Yes, he is. And then there was this interesting tweet by Busteroni. Those watching on YouTube will see it now on your screens as he told.
Ooh, fancy!
I know we're playing with graphics. It does kind of block off me and Richard. But Alex, you're in there.
Yeah, so it's improved already if you can't see me.
Yeah, Alec Bohm's picture's now completely taken Richard's spot.
Alex is looking at me
like that.
This is incentive to go watch this on YouTube because Alec Bohm is looking directly at me.
He really is as well. As if
terrifying.
Yeah.
He's upset with me.
Oh, he's upset with you. What? Yeah. He was looking at me like that. Me and Bohm are besties, but Busteroni says what I'm hearing from other teams is Alec Bohm is going to be traded. Like he's out there a bunch, and they say the Phillies have been around long enough to know that they could squash this if they wanted to. They could go out and tell a whisper to their reporters, yeah, Bohm's not available, but they're not doing that. Alex, this seems to be pretty legit. Now, me personally, I'd like to see one more year of Bohm at least, and then see what happens if Miller or even Otto Kemp could be ready to come up by then. He's cheap at third base. I don't think we're going to get Bregman anyway. Alex, where do you stand on this?
I mean, based on what I know, yeah, it's pretty likely. It's quite likely, I would say. I think that Ranger Suarez and Alec Bohm trades are. I would not go as far as say imminent, but they are definitely being considered heavily.
But in what sort of return? Like, are we going third base for third base in the white? Oh, you can't send him to the White Sox. I know it'd be great to get Crochet, put Crochet possibly out of it, but sending Alec to the White Sox, that would be brutal.
I think more of probably where you want to look is teams that have arbitration eligible relievers that the Phillies could be interested in. So Devin Williams, as we have been made aware, is on the trade block. Ryan Helsley, I have a hard time seeing St. Louis not dealing him unless they are looking to be competitive this year, which they probably are, but I don't think a Ryan Helsley trade is going to make them non-competitive when they can go out and sign another reliever to fill his shoes. I think that's more where you want to look, not necessarily for an Alec Bohm trade, but for a Ranger Suarez trade. Alec Bohm is interesting. The value is probably not going to be what Phillies fans want it to be. He's got 2 years of arbitration left. Huge steps forward from a defensive perspective and from an offensive perspective this year. But the value is not necessarily all that high because third base isn't exactly a position of demand for a contact first hitter. That being said, his defense kind of speaks for itself. He's been really excellent over at third base, and he drives.
This is what I don't get, Alex. Right? People say, "Oh, his defense hasn't been that good," but he kind of has. He hasn't
been pretty great.
Everyone's had their lapses, but overall, I think Bohm's been more. He's been, I think he's been good. I'm not gonna lie. From what my eyes tell me, from what I've seen, obviously makes the odd errors. You get that of Arenado. I think Arenado made more errors than Bohm this year.
Probably.
He's been good. He's been good. I don't get the rush.
Good.
The poll I did on Twitter, over 1,000 votes. I said to the people, as usual, I'd have Bohm, Arenado, or Bregman. Bohm won the poll, so the fans do overall majority. They still want him here. But it's a tough one for the Phils. Like they need to make changes, but I can't help for this Bohm one is making a change for the sake of a change. I don't want it. I don't want to see Bohm go. I can't handle losing Hoskins last year and then Bohm this year. My two boys, my two favorite players.
I think the Phils. More what it is that the Phillies are probably Alec Bohm's not going to be a guy that you probably offer a qualifying offer to unless he really breaks out in some huge way. I think what you're seeing in Alec Bohm right now is a pretty finished product of the kind of player he's going to be.
But that is RBIs a year.
It's good. Don't get me wrong, but that's not really what I think the Phillies are expecting from a third baseman. The Phillies want a power threat. They want a guy that maybe can help spread this lineup out a little bit, maybe can decrease, a little bit of the swing happy nature of this lineup. And while Alec Bohm really great, he does not whiff, he does not chase very much, but his pitch selection is not the best. And he certainly isn't pulling balls that he needs to be pulling, and that's been an ongoing issue for a few years now. Whereas you look at somebody like Alex Bregman does exactly the opposite.
Well, Alex, let me just, again, for
right,
you viewers, let's get the standard.
Oh, why not?
Yes. Why not? Bohm and Bregman stats from last season on the actually from 2023 and 24 regular season. So it's pretty close. 288 games, Bohm. He had that small injury towards the end of last season. 306 games in the last 2 years for Bregman. Now, 51 home runs, 173 RBIs. Average is a little lower than Alex as well. It's not a lot between them. Between Bohm and Bregman
there are two very relevant statistics that are not present on this particular graphic. And number one, that would be defense, right? Alec Bohm has been very good at third base. Alex Bregman has been one of the best third basemen in Major League Baseball for the last few years. And the other really important one is strikeouts, right? Now, Alec Bohm does not strike out a lot. Alex Bregman is notorious for not striking out. Mm-hmm. Alex Bregman has one of the best eyes in all of Major League Baseball. And that is probably what attracts the Phillies to him so much, as I'm sure we've all seen. Now, obviously, that's what could attract the Phillies to Juan Soto too. But
that ain't happening.
Who's to say? But it is a really, really, really interesting question to pose. Alex Bregman is basically doing everything that the Phillies would want Alec Bohm to do. And Alec Bohm is coming off of a career season. So why not look to flip somebody like Alec Bohm at the peak of his value and then acquire somebody who only costs you money and a draft pick, 2 draft picks as it stands, and a couple draft picks, to get the optimized version of Alec Bohm.
Yeah,
it's a challenge. It's a real challenge, but the Phillies window is now. That's the thing.
And that's that's a good point. And it seems getting a little bit smaller with JT regressing and getting older, Bryce getting ever older, Cassidy, and another one who could be well on his way out as well on the trade block. Richard, from what you've seen from Alec, what were your feelings towards it all? What do you think of? Would you rather Alex stay again? I know you're fairly new to the Phillies, but for you, would you want to see him stay, get Bregman in? Because, like Alex said, the window's now, and these tough decisions have to be made.
Yeah, I think, like I said last time, I'm in a similar camp to you. I'd like to see Alex stay. I think he shows he's got that. He's got an ability. It's just, I mean, at this point, how much of it is purely mental? There's obviously something going on there. Is it a case of if he fixes that, he'll be back to where he was? How much was the hand at the end of the year? I know he was struggling before that anyway. I think the only way that Bohm, if it's a trade, it has to be to win now. We can't be trading Bohm away for the future. Like you say, the window's getting shorter. So I can only see him being in a trade where it's what can help the Phillies win in 2025, not looking to the future.
Exactly. And that's a good point, actually. Bohm's injury, the mental side of things completely collapsed, and it was very, very awkward to see. And if that comes back next year, because we saw the complete tail off Alec had when he got in his own head, and it keeps happening. He had it a couple of years ago with the famous "I hate this place." He shows it from time to time. He had a big one in the last season to a point where it got awkward. You could see the guy was mentally suffering. And if that again gets in the way of his game next year, then we've not got the version of Bohm that we want. It's going to hinder the Phils. It's going to leave us a big third base hole. So,
and those are things that you have to be. First of all, a lot of other clubs are going to be cognizant of his mental, struggles, and that is a really big part of, when you're a team that's looking to thrive in the postseason, right? If you are even stopping for a moment to think about, am I swinging here? If you're guessing, right? Yeah. If you hesitate for a second and you get distracted with, emotional flare-ups and things like that, you're going to get outmatched. in the postseason. You're going to get outmatched. And that's the big thing that I think the Phillies are really, I mean, Rob Thompson benching Alec Bohm in, what was that, game 4? Was a telltale sign of really how much that mental aspect of his game was.
And also saying that Souza would bring the spark.
Energy, spark.
Bohm's out,
Right. So I think that you are looking at, if we're looking at likelihood to be traded, Alec Bohm's on the top of the list.
Yeah.
Especially given what I've heard.
I think my concern would be like, how much value are we getting for him? Because everyone can see the issue in like, do we get the value back of his potential ceiling he could have next year? He's shown the player he can be.
Yep.
But does any other team in the league value that?
That's true.
But whatever,
a knife edge, isn't it? It could really go either way to the extreme.
But at the end of the day, him going to the angle from other teams that will make other teams want to pursue him being in a less hostile environment, a smaller market, a market that is going to, give him a little bit of space to breathe. On top of, he's already shown how solid of a player he really is.
Yeah,
and
true.
Regardless of the mental struggles or anything like that, all of the periphery data is really, really, really good. And all of the defensive data is on the upward trend. So he is a guy that's entering his prime that, ultimately is a pretty decent player. The problem is those mental struggles are definitely going to factor into the value. He is not some spring chicken that, some team is looking to, blow a bunch of prospects on. But I do think that, and I think, Dave, you alluded to this earlier, a 3-team trade that involves Alec Bohm going somewhere, prospects. I know the Mariners were brought up in some
interesting
outlet. But it feels like a very Jerry DiPoto move to make. But if
it's not like the Phils, is it?
Well, here's the thing. So the reason that the Mariners make a lot of sense, Eugenio Suarez he was on the Diamondbacks, but he was their third baseman a little while ago. And a lot of what the Mariners have struggled to find since his departure is not only, an impact bat for third base, but they've really struggled to find somebody that won't swing and miss at literally everything. So Alec Bohm is kind of a good answer to that problem. But it would be really interesting to see a 3-team trade between, let's say, the Mariners, let's say the White Sox, and the Phillies. If the Phillies were...
See, I like this, Alex. I like this, yes.
If they were looking to lessen the price tag on something like Garrett Crochet, which I can confidently say they pursued super heavily at the deadline.
Well, this is a perfect,
love Garrett Crochet.
This is a perfect segue, because that's pretty much it on Bohm. Very quick, yes or no? Would you also have Arenado as a potential replacement for Bohm?
Ooh.
No,
I know you said quick, but the decline's real. It's gonna be
and that's
he's 34 in April.
Unless the Cardinals,
if
the Cardinals are giving you a slew of prospects and Ryan Helsley, I'd consider it. He only has 3 years left on his deal.
I had in my notes they'd have to add Helsley in as well. Like,
the defense isn't going anywhere. But then, I mean, the Cardinals, what are they doing? Like, what is
that whole deal to bring Arenado there was a complete "what are you doing"? It wasn't that just crazy?
Well, that was what are you doing on the Rockies? The Rockies.
Oh, that was right. Yeah, that brings it all back.
Ultimately, Arenado's great for St. Louis, but now the decline is very, very real.
Yeah, he's getting older. He's injuries.
But he doesn't,
like I said last time, we don't want that third base merry-go-round of Paul Fielding that we had last year.
No,
but
I can't watch that again.
He is a good defender, and ultimately he doesn't whiff, he doesn't chase, he doesn't any of those things. But he's not making impact when he does pick the right pitches. That's a problem.
If Bohm went and we got Arenado in, I would not be happy. It's Bregman for me. It's kind of Bregman or just stay where we are.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much what you're going to be.
So Soto looks pretty Mets bound. They're about to blow. They're about to wait.
I don't think so.
Did you see the story about the Red Sox? I don't know. Like, it's just someone.
What, for Soto?
Apparently,
I
was
don't
massively impressed with the Red Sox.
I don't think, and all of that can be posturing, and I don't think there's any way the Yankees let Juan Soto go. I don't think there's any way.
I think whichever way he doesn't come to the Phillies, like whichever team he lands at,
I think it is either, for me, and I really don't know anything on this front. I don't have any kind of insider trading information, but I think the Blue Jays and the Yankees are the two teams to watch there. That is
wasn't the Jays who nearly had Ohtani, wasn't it, last year?
And
they
were tracking a plane, weren't they?
They have been scorned time and time again, and they have so much money. They have so much money to throw at. Their one problem for years and years and years, they do not have a left-handed hitter. And that is why they wanted Shohei Ohtani so bad. They were willing to match the Dodgers offer for what, $650 million or however high that Shohei bidding got, until the Dodgers were like, okay, $700 million if you sign the contract right now, right? And in over 10 years, which was another huge part of it, right? But like they want a left-handed hitter. And I think the Jays are being wildly discounted in this running.
Maybe there'll be that mystery team that appears in the.
They've been talked about a lot, I will say. So it's not quite a
so
shock.
Soto. Well, Dombrowski's already pretty much written it off that Soto's not coming to the Phils. Closed door.
Something could always change.
I don't know. I would right, Alex. Crochet from the White Sox. What do we what deal do we throw in? Because the White Sox know we're keen. We were heavy at the trade deadline. They know they can put a price on him, and we're going to be pretty much going to pay it. We want this. We want this 25-year-old in. You know, Suarez could part the deal. Aiden Miller's a complete no. Whatever happens.
Well, that's
think, Alex.
That's the kicker, isn't it? The idea from the White Sox perspective is either Andrew Painter or a package centered around Justin Crawford and Aiden Miller. That's what the buzz was at the trade deadline, and I'm assuming that hasn't changed. Now, here's the deal. If you trade for Garrett Crochet, you're trading for Garrett Crochet with an extension. And that is going to make it a bit more expensive, but at the same time, it'll get done. It's guaranteed to get done. So that's the big thing. Ultimately, by stuff models, Garrett Crochet is the best pitcher in baseball. That's just what it is. He has the best stuff of any pitcher in baseball. If he can stay healthy.
If he can stay healthy.
Phillies have been exceedingly good at keeping their arms healthy. And more than that, they are, a one of the smarter organizations when it comes to pitch development in baseball. I would not say they are like top 5, but they are definitely in the top 10.
Absolutely.
Do you
think they could throw in a double package of Luis Robert and bring him? His name popped up again today. I completely forgot about him. I saw his name pop up again today. I was like, oh yeah.
I would. I don't know if I'd want any part in that, but I do think that it would be interesting. Especially, I just don't see the White Sox selling low on Luis Robert.
No chance. No chance.
So I don't think it would ever really happen. And Crochet is. What'd you say?
Just a fun fact on him while we're on the. He's one of only 2 non-Phillies players that I have baseball cards of.
There you go.
No, you know how I said last time.
You invested early.
Went to a White Sox game. He was the first home run I ever saw at a live baseball game. So I have his card. So actually, him ending up on the Phillies would be, whether he's good enough or not, I just like to see it just for my own.
Yeah, absolutely.
Enjoyment.
Love that.
And not only that, but I need the Phils to pick up on one of these big players, because the Dodgers just seem to be getting in and everyone again and getting stronger. The Yankees, it feels like the big money market franchises are now really starting to stockload. And I need the Phils to just take one of these pieces to stop them getting them more than anybody else. Get the strong getting stronger. I need for us to compete. I feel we need one of these guys. I don't think so is going to happen, but if we can get Crochet and even Bregman, good. Because I just feel the Mets are going to get strong. The Yankees, the Dodgers, these big franchises. As Ricky showed up on the screen.
I think
it's not a very clear focus, but he's there.
The biggest thing to think about is you can kind of see the vision of where the Phillies are going now. Instead of trying to, because their offense is widely set. right, for at least the next year or so, you can kind of see the vision. They are going to, and Dave Dombrowski kind of spoke on it at the trade deadline. It looks like they're going to try and shore up their pitching as much as humanly possible, collect some of the best arms in the sport, and then they are going to overhaul their defense. Putting Alex Bregman at third base is a great way to do that, if that was the plan. And then, obviously their outfield defense has been pretty solid, over these last few years, give or take. So I think that you can start to see the vision a little bit. They're less trying to look for superstars and big bats and things like that, and more just trying to acquire a lot of really, really talented pitching and get that defense jacked up so that they can really, keep their opponents from scoring runs instead of just counting on out bashing every single opponent.
True. We need some small ball. You saw how the Dodgers won the World Series. It's something that we seriously lacked. The Dodgers didn't. I know Freddie Freeman and Ohtani had the big hits in the build-up, and Freeman was just on another level that World Series, that playoffs.
But it'd be nice if the opposition defense just stopped trying against us as well. That would help.
Yeah,
would help.
Yeah. And don't turn into absolute gold glovers. Yeah. That was. I kind of want to talk about it, so it's just going to get me back into that headspace. But quickly, Sasaki, percentage-wise, our chance of landing him, the Dodgers again seem the favorites. It makes sense. I can see them going to the Padres or even the
it seems to be a West Coast team. That's just with proximity to Japan. And
I wouldn't necessarily count anybody out when it comes to Roki Sasaki. I think that now here's the kicker. He's a very motivated young man, and there are concerns about how motivated he is and how intensely he takes competition and things like that. But I think that I've been following Roki for ages since he was 16. This kid has been,
this kid, by the way,
on the top of
for
everyone.
those who don't know him, this is the next big thing to come out of Japan, but even better than Yamamoto. And
like Yamamoto was the appetizer to Roki Sasaki. This is like
he's a kid, and he's gonna shove. This guy is gonna be.
It's like
incredible.
He's looking to go wherever he thinks he has the best chance of being the greatest pitcher of all time. That is what has always kind of been his MO, is, beating everyone else and being the best. And so wherever he feels that is going to be, he's going to go there. And I don't think the Dodgers are, not that they're not the best place for him to go. Obviously, they just won a World Series, etc. I think he wants to beat the Dodgers, and I've seen that published somewhere. But that's the idea that I get.
Like the Dodgers, even their IL pitchers list is good enough. That rotation is good enough to win to play in any franchise.
But you're looking at
the injuries.
Sasaki is virtually prospect status. That's the other thing, is that you're kind of signing him as because that's what happened to Shohei. When Shohei was initially signed by the Angels, who would have thunk? When Shohei went to the Angels, he was looked at as like a prospect, right? Just as Yamamoto was last year. But you don't have to start Roki in the majors. You don't. They probably, whatever team signs him, probably will. But if he struggles, you can option him, things like that. It's a very, very interesting scenario. But also, to your point, Dave, the Dodgers haven't been great at keeping their guys healthy.
No.
And I would imagine to be the best of all time, you kind of have to stay healthy. So I don't know.
It's an interesting.
You have to take into account, Roki is not a guy that necessarily cares about being close to family. He just cares about being the best.
And when a talent like that comes along, we've got Painter coming up, but if you've got a chance of getting Crochet and Sasaki into your rotation, Painter maybe then does become available for a trade. Do you reckon? Or do you reckon
no,
that as well with the best rotation in baseball?
He's not going anywhere. That is
we'll get to Painter. We'll get to Painter in 2 seconds because what a Arizona fall he's had. So let's wrap up a few things very quickly. Bryce Harper was named the Silver Slugger for the 4th time in his career. One of the few players ever to do it in 3 different positions: outfield, DH, and of course at first base for us. Pretty incredible. And hopefully on Wednesday night, I think it is, Zach Wheeler will hopefully be a Cy Young. Alex, as Wheeler and Sale's stats from last year are on the screen, I'm sorry, I know postseason's not included, but it should be, and it's nonsense. I'm sorry, it should be the whole season. Sale didn't even pitch against the NL East champions at all last season. We didn't even see him. He didn't pitch for the last week and a half of the season. Wheeler's, it's just Wheeler for me. I know Sale's on a triple crown threat, but Alex, Zach Wheeler is stats, just for those who are listening. Wheeler 2.57 ERA, Sale 2.38. Sale's fib is considerably lower. However, Wheeler has pitched more innings, 1 less strikeout, lower WAR. Alex, part of me thinks it's going to Sale, but Wheeler, man, like the postseason was unbelievable. I know it doesn't count, but it should. And that's when it really, really matters.
You just have to remember who's voting.
I know, and he got robbed 2 years ago. It's going to happen again.
I don't necessarily think he's getting robbed this year. I think he deserved to beat Corbin Burns. That I will state in ink.
No, I don't mean robbed. Like he got robbed 2 years ago, but he should.
But Chris Sale,
is unbelievable by Sale, by the way.
You have to account for it. Yeah, he was spectacular. Go freaking figure, I guess. Short rib elbow and turns into a Cy Young candidate again as soon as he sets foot in Atlanta soil. Anyway, it is, a lot of people will point to the innings pitched discrepancies. And I think with that, they forget that counting stats also take that into account. And without the extra, 23 innings that Zach Wheeler has on Chris Sale. And yes, there are 8 more quality starts or something like that Zach Wheeler threw. But Chris Sale still beat him in strikeouts. Like Chris Sale
by what? And he played less games.
He played 23 less innings. That's what makes that more impressive.
I suppose
is what I'm trying to say. And then the FIP differentiation is crazy, and that should not be overlooked. Now, I don't think the
but then do they take considerations who he faced, who his opposition was? Because he didn't face us once last season.
Yeah, but I also think that he would have. He was on another level. He was killing it.
He was I'm not saying crown. He wouldn't deserve it. If he wins, he does deserve it. But
a pitching triple crown is a pitching triple crown, and I do think that Chris Sale is probably going to take home the Cy Young. But Zach Wheeler it is incredible for him to be doing what he is doing, and the run that he is on in the Phillies uniform.
It's just incredible to think that Zach Wheeler go through his whole career without a Cy Young.
Crazy.
It's just insane. We'll find out Wednesday. Hopefully, if he wins it, we'll get on the pod. It'll be fantastic.
He'll win it next year.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I still think Wheeler's got 2-3 years of high level, top
Go to
level.
the Phillies.
Yeah. Xfinity Live will be getting a £15 million upgrade. As you can see the images on your screen, it looks really cool.
Sweet.
I'm excited for these upgrades. There's another one. So they've got this backyard up 2-level deck they're bringing in. The stage is getting jazzed up. It's all really towards the back of Xfinity Live. It's gonna be a bit less parking. But Richard, I like these. Are just 2 of the renderings we've got on the screen. I've seen more, but I like this. This is a good upgrade to already what is the best complex in sport.
Yeah, it looks great. It looks absolutely fantastic. We were there this year. Obviously not during the games because we're inside the stadiums. But it was a great atmosphere. And these, certainly for baseball, like during the summer months, like maybe like football so much, like are you wanting to stand outside on a rooftop or anything? But certainly for the Philly season, Like it's going to be
a nice summer's day, yeah, and especially for the playoffs as well. When you've got all the teams going at it,
that'll be the place to be.
It's they can host 5,000 up to 5,000 now. I think the capacity is going to be 8,000-9,000 once it's all done, and then there's plans for even more after that. But yeah, that was cool. The Phillies are close to a $500 million worth of money with these new investors. Interesting what that goes towards. We'll find out. And front office changes also. Is it, Alex? I want your quick thought on this one. I think this is brilliant. Preston Mattingly will be promoted to the general manager. Now, he has been part of this very quick turnaround with the Phils that we've seen from the start of the 2020s to now where we are. His scouting has been fantastic. This is exciting. Sam Folds will go to the president of business operations. Luke Merton will be the president of player development. Edward Gonzalez will be promoted to the director of hitting development. And Phillies have hired Mark Lowy to be the assistant pitching coach, replacing, unfortunately, Brian Kebden, who left for the D-backs. Alex, what do we make of these? Like, Preston Mattingly is soon going to be the head poncho, isn't he? You know, he's destined for it.
It's really deserved. He's done an awesome job. He is so intelligent. I've spoken to him a couple times. Just a really, really, really smart man. And he grew up around the sport, obviously. He's the real deal. He's done a really great job with this Phillies farm system. And that is also really interesting because as general manager, he has probably some of the best knowledge of anyone in this organization of what this farm system is made of, what their MO is, what they're directing every player to do at every level. He oversaw it. So it's pretty cool that the Phillies general manager is going to be somebody who has such a strong idea of the farm system and has kept such a close eye on some of these players, especially the ones that fly a little bit more under the radar. As far as everything goes with losing Brian Kaplan, that's a big blow. It's a huge blow. It stinks. It's really, really, really unfortunate. It's what happens when you are a good team operating at a high level and constantly churning out really good pitchers from nothing. You are going to lose some guys. And granted, Caleb Cotham is still probably the most important person in this organization, period, end of story. But Brian Kaplan played a big role in just kind of the trickle down idea of what the Phillies preach when it comes to their pitching philosophy and things like that. So he will be sorely, sorely missed. But that being said, I don't think the Phillies will really lose a step, knock on wood, in that sense, because their organizational philosophy has just been so clean, clear, and well delivered. And you can see it in literally every single pitcher they get their hands on, save Taijuan Walker. But
next year...
No, I'm not going there. But I think that's more of a communication between two parties problem than it is.
I think we've done it to death. The Taijuan Walker. But next year, I'm telling you, I can't bang that drum anymore.
We don't even need to go there.
But I feel that, again, the front office, the running of the franchise is in great hands, and all these promotions are great. They all make sense. All great moves. Sam Fold as well. What a difference he'd made since his short tenure with the Phillies as well. Exciting stuff. And what's been even more exciting, and watch Alex's face light up as I say it, the prospects have been doing well in Arizona fall, particularly one man, Andrew Painter, who was, I'm not sure what I think, pitcher of the year? Isn't the Arizona Fall League just a month and a bit?
Pitcher of the fall, but it happens once a year. It happens once a year.
Hey, we'll go with it. It sounds great. So we'll go with it. Pitcher of the year. That is not Andrew Painter. I'm trying to get back to us. There we are. Andrew Painter's final line, 15.2 innings pitched, just 4 earned runs given up, which in itself, just coming back from Tommy John and coming in to shove like he has been unbelievable. 18 strikeouts, 2.30 ERA. Oh, man, I'm excited. I am excited. I fully believe that we're going to have hopefully a good spring out of him. He may not jump into the rotation straight away, second half of the season, possibly, but Alex, Painter looks legit.
I mean, we've been beating that drum for a little while, but at the same time, I think the biggest thing to note, first things first, I think 2 of those earned runs came in his first game, like, that he pitched in the AFL.
I cannot remember.
I'm pretty sure, and that's pretty impressive because then he went on to deliver, 13 more innings, allowing 2 earned runs. And I think the most important thing is that he walked 4 guys, struck out 18, right? These are, for those who don't know what the Arizona Fall League is, essentially the majority of teams, well, not the majority, all teams will send a bulk of prospects who maybe they were injured, maybe they didn't see as much playing time as the team would have wanted, or maybe they just need a couple extra reps. They had a rough season, but normally it's a big chunk of top prospects from around the league, and it's oftentimes the toughest competition that any of these guys will face. Inside or outside of AAA, really. AAA is the only level that I would say probably exceeds Arizona Fall League competition, which is why scouts and other folks really, value these stats pretty heavily, AFL stats. So it's a very, very, very difficult, the level of difficulty is raised. Yeah. Andrew Painter came in, and Nola making an appearance. Hello, sir. And dominated. And I think the biggest plus is that he walked 4 guys in 15.2 innings. The command snapped right back into place.
Which is for me the biggest concern, especially coming back from it's a long layoff, especially when you're a pitcher. It was been doing it for over a year.
Yeah, it was nearly 16 months. I think he went without in-game action.
And by the way, just to add, it's incredible that he's back now, because with the injury he's had, it's usually another half a year to even a year before you see pitchers. Although the recovery from Tommy Johns are now seemingly getting quicker and quicker.
For pitchers, it's always pretty chunky, but he's been out for a minute, so it's great.
It feels like it, Alex. It feels like it.
Allow me to regale you with something, if I may.
Oh.
I'm going to say 5 names. Zach Wheeler. Aaron Nola. Garrett Crochet.
Oh.
Christopher Sanchez.
Stop it.
Andrew Painter? Ooh.
Isn't
that just it's like a cup of hot cocoa on a cold winter's day.
It's mental to think that Painter and Sanchez could be our 4 and 5.
It hits. That's good stuff. Now, do I think he'll start the season in the majors? Absolutely not. But do I think that whatever the Phillies do, if they end up grabbing a Garrett Crochet, if they end up grabbing a swingman type like they did with Spencer Turnbull, whatever they end up doing, and that would be to hold Andrew Painter's spot until he's ready. But whatever they end up doing, that rotation has the chance to look absolutely dynamite.
It really, really does. So you seem pretty reluctant then that Rangers a big trade bet.
I do think that one of my, I'm not going to lock it in, but one of my strongest predictions is because it just lines up too well. I think either Milwaukee or St. Louis is going to look at Ranger Suarez and, try and take that on. And they have pitchers that, match up pretty well from a perspective.
Sorry, but I had a thought in my head.
Yeah, go ahead.
Since his injury, he hasn't been, and he did struggle. That last year was a bit of a down year from injuries, didn't help. But do you think there's a point where the Phils go, do we think he will get back to pre-injury Ranger? Because it's a big call letting him go, like a really, really big call. Because if he does go back to the Ranger Suarez that we see, love and know, then that's a big picture to lose. And Crochet better be the real deal, because losing Ranger Suarez, who we just know wherever he goes, when he comes back to face us, he'll probably go complete innings, shut out, this Cy Young. But I'm very, very wary of this letting Ranger go. Unless it's for Crochet or Sasaki, I don't know, Alex.
I wouldn't be. I think that the health is a concern. The durability is a concern. And ultimately, he has always been a low stuff guy. He's a deception first pitcher. He's a guy that will attack hitters. He's never afraid of anything, but he mostly lets guys get themselves out. And with the emergence of Christopher Sanchez is everything you would have hoped Ranger Suarez would have turned into. And Christopher Sanchez is on one of the craziest contracts the Phillies have ever signed. So, I mean, it really is. Ranger Suarez is reaching free agency next year. And
that's
true. He's got an arbitration estimate of $11 million. Do you need to allocate that $11 million to the rotation, which is already really strong? Or would you rather reallocate that $11 million to the bullpen and trade for, say, Devin Williams, right?
Hazley,
like, it makes a lot of sense, especially from a salary constrained team like the Brewers, to look at a trade like this and say, hey, we don't necessarily have to go out and, put multiple years and multiple millions of dollars out there. We can just get Ranger Suarez on a 1 year, $11 million deal with maybe a prospect or two on the way back and send Devin Williams over, who we can just clone anyway, apparently.
Okay. Well,
but that's what makes sense to me. I'm not sure, but again, you're not going to be looking at getting a haul of prospects here. I think major leaguer for major leaguer trades
I think with the way you're putting that, they're making a hole for Crochet to come in, but I would take Suarez for Devin Williams if then the knock-on effect is having a chance against Sasaki or Crochet in, Painter to come through second half of the season, then the rotation you just named. Okay, all right.
But this is kind of what good teams do, right? Like the Dodgers have a player that maybe they don't have so much space for. They start shopping around. They start saying, "Who can I,
Well, haven't they just unloaded Walker Buehler?
Well, yeah, exactly. But
phenomenal, because he was incredible in the World Series.
But what I mean is, the Dodgers, I'm trying to think of a recent example, but, it's probably happening right now with guys like Andy Pages. What is the prospect they just traded to Chicago last year? The first baseman, who I can never remember the name of. It's fine. They always, they have all these prospects, and instead of, looking for a way to pigeonhole them into their current roster, they just parse them out and address current needs. That's just how they do things. The Phillies are at a point right now where they are, they have a surplus of talent in certain areas. They're looking at Aiden Miller, coming down the pipeline, and they say, well, maybe Alec Bohm is expendable. They look at Andrew Painter coming down the pipeline. They have a huge desire to trade for Garrett Crochet. They have a surplus here, and they can afford to steal from it.
All right. That's okay. That's now got me actually quite excited. Richard, what do you make?
So that's the big thing.
Andrew Painter. Have you seen anything of Andrew Painter? Have you?
I've not actually watched anything. I've just seen all the good. I've seen like little clips here and there. I haven't watched like a full game, but seen all the positive stats week in, week out. Exciting, really exciting. We need something in that fifth spot, and he's not going to be ready straight away, but just anything in that fifth spot. Crochet coming in would be great.
And the thing is, the good thing is what Alex alluded to there, that you could probably bring back Turnbull and put him in for half a year while Painter ramps him.
I don't think they'd look at Turnbull.
Turnbull-like.
Turnbull's
health. Although he was starting to regress before he got injured anyway.
Do we think Corbin Burns could be another target? They tried last year, didn't they? And he's going into free agency.
Or Soroka?
He is a free agent, but that's kind of the name that I've been alluding to.
Legit Soroka?
I think that, you look at kind of the lower tier of starter arms that are available, and you see guys like, I don't know, there's a lot of, wild cards out there. There's like Jose Urquidy, who hasn't pitched in quite some time. You could look at like an aging Max Scherzer, an aging Justin Verlander, but those are probably too expensive for, the kind of role that they'd be.
He wants a bit of money still, doesn't he?
Well, and they would, you can't promise a non-guaranteed role to a guy like that. But, then there's Frankie Montas. There's like, Lance Lynn is back in free agency. Michael Lorenzen's back out there.
Don't forget, Soroka actually had a really good September in tail end of the year. Like
he is not going to demand any kind of serious money, and that's the really interesting thing. I think I know Jack is really into it. Shout out Jack Fritz.
High hopes. Yeah,
but I know that he's been really, really into that idea, and he's been beating that drum. But unironically, it makes a lot of sense for the Phillies because they could really, I do not doubt that Taijuan Walker could be. Oh yeah, I don't think that the Phillies are going to be willing to go down that road again. I don't. I think they'd rather throw darts at a dartboard than look at Taijuan Walker and say, okay, you're going back out there.
They just picked up someone today, didn't they? They like a minor league contract. Padilla.
I'm unsure.
His Richard with an
Nicholas Padilla.
What did I miss?
Philly signed former Rays White Sox pitcher Nicholas Padilla to a minor league deal.
Sure.
I think he played like one
Yeah,
game.
Nick Padilla is not really. I don't think that's the kind of guy that you'd be looking at. That's more, the Phillies are making these early.
Where do the Phillies pick up these sort of pieces? Like, what are they hoping for with this type of unknown?
A lot of the time, they see something in the data that says, oh, we can really exploit this. One tendency that they have. Like, so think of Bailey Falter, right? Bailey Falter's one calling card is his extension, right? He just has elite extension and it makes all his stuff play a little bit more if he can, dial it up a little bit. But when it comes to, some of these other real true unknowns, like you mentioned, Dave, usually it's like they see a characteristic in their sweeper or they want to retool, something in their slider, something like that. Or they want to increase the usage of their changeup and get them to stop throwing a certain pitch, right? So they're throwing darts at a dartboard. Normally, these are guys that are just going to play the minor league season for them. But like, this is the kind of thing that they find, the Max Lazars with.
Look at Hoffman. Look at
precisely.
Hoffman was an unknown. Matt Strahm was a bit unknown. Phil's they said the coaching wise, we've got a great knack of picking up these like rough rocks and then polishing them into little gems.
They have a very distinct type of player that they look for when it comes to developing their pitching. But again, Jose Ruiz, similar, right? Signed to a minor league deal early last offseason, and lo and behold, he became one of the Phillies' better pitchers in the second half.
Before.
It's just that's what they do, and it's super impressive, and it's what smart teams do. But it also, makes it very interesting, but with starting pitchers, it's very different. That's kind of why I think, Soroka is that kind of guy. You sign him to a split deal, and if he makes the major league roster, great. But if he struggles, out of the 5 spot, you can always demote him or release him or whatever you need to do. And Andrew Painter is sitting and waiting, right? So
all right,
it's something akin to that, right? Matthew Boyd is another name that I've heard.
It's actually quite remarkable to think of Soroka as a 5th starter, considering just two years ago when he first came on the scene, and I remember watching the Braves against us. He was unbelievable.
Oh, I remember coming on this podcast and talking about how lucky he was.
Yeah, he got hit with injuries quite hard, though, didn't he, as well?
He's just he really benefited from a great defense. He really, he never really missed a ton of bats. But either way, but there's a lot of options out there for a swingman type role. So, and
let's finish. Well, and by the way, Griff McGarry didn't have a bad Arizona fall.
The numbers are deceiving you.
Really?
He walked like 11 guys and struck out 4. No, he's no. I don't think he's cooked. I don't. I think Griff is actually has a great chance of still being a really good major league reliever. He's just really going through it right now in terms of really refreshing mechanics and kind of starting from scratch.
All right. Well, here's one guy who the numbers are backed up, and he's come from pretty much unknown nowhere to this
undrafted free agent.
This Arizona fall. Well, not to you, Alex, obviously, but people like me who is
Dave. He was an undrafted free agent signing. He was unknown to everybody. Nobody outside of the Phillies, apparently.
And that name is Otto Kemp, 3rd baseman, interestingly enough, who had an excellent minor league. And again, sort of went under the radar in a way because you obviously had Miller, Crawford, ring cones to an extent. But Otto Kemp kept posting some good numbers, good stats. Really came alive second half of the season. The Miners had a fantastic Arizona fall, 45 at bat, 6 home runs, 22 RBIs, 11 walks, an average of 289. That's just your basic stats. Otto Kemp is he's getting to get attention. He's coming on the radar. Another good year in the minors. And if there is still some sort of hole at third base or infield, then he could legit, and I think we'll see him in spring. I imagine we would, wouldn't we? Just to get our first taste in the Phillies uniform. Yeah. But this is a guy who, I don't know, I'm starting to get a little bit, this is another one we could have discovered and an uncovered gem.
Yeah, he has been nothing short of spectacular since the calendar turned to 2024. He really, I mean, this is a guy that, and I would not say he's a third baseman wholly. I'd say he's more of a utility guy. He bounces around.
Which is what we need.
he has a lot of impact in that bat, and there are some whiff concerns and things to look out for. But ultimately, he is he's an aggressive, selective hitter. He swings a lot. He takes a lot of guesses, and he will whiff. But when he puts the bat to the ball, he makes some extreme impact, and it's really, really cool. But I mean, that was showcased with a 1.2 OPS in the fall league. I think it was here. I'll Google it. He
was in the ones. He was in the ones.
I think it's 1.194. So very close. A 733 slugging percentage. But he hit 6 home runs. He in 15 games, by the way. He is just,
which is actually really quite insane.
He's straight out of the 1950s in that picture.
Genuinely. But he's a very talented hitter. I wouldn't even say he's positionless. He's just, a little bit of question marks where his stable position would be. But he doesn't need to if he's a utility type of guy. Yeah, he's been really impressive. I'm so excited for him. He deserves this so much. Again, as I mentioned earlier, undrafted free agent in 2022.
This is your domain, right? Alex. I have no
2022.
No idea.
2022. So undrafted free agent in 2022, which was also a really interesting undrafted free agent class for the Phillies. We'll touch on that a little bit later at a later podcast, but lots of interesting Casey Stewart's from that class, I think. Lots of really interesting guys. But Otto Kemp is definitely a name to have on your list. Has just started now. Obviously, this performance has really helped him, but is catapulting onto Phillies top 30 lists all across the board.
Yeah.
Just a really impactful bat.
Another player who, again, if you can back that up with a good spring, he's well on the radar. Well on the radar for the Phils. And again, with the window sort of shrinking to have the likes of Aidan Miller, Otto Kemp, Crawford.
That reminds me of one other thing too. I wouldn't remember non-tender deadlines coming up, ladies and gentlemen.
Next week, I think
22nd, I believe. Edmundo Sosa, a very interesting name to look out for as this non-tender deadline approaches. Not to be non-tendered, but perhaps to be traded? ? I don't know. I just thought I'd throw that one out there because I am surprised I have not been seeing it much more. He's going to be owed a significant arbitration figure, especially after a great year. There are a lot of teams out there that if they miss on Willy Adames are going to be SOL for a shortstop in this free agent class. I don't know.
I know. I was going to ask you very, 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 very quickly. Marchand, yes, who goes into next year with no options. We're relying on him to stay healthy. Do you see Marchand being the backup catcher next year for the Phils?
Yep. Pretty much no question. I love Garrett Stubbs. Everybody knows I love Garrett Stubbs. I think the Phillies are shifting their focus away from vibes and more to
hence the breakup of Stubbs, the daycare. Yeah.
But I also think that this is not to say that they are just going to completely shut down their vibes tandem. Brandon Marsh and Bryson Stott are pretty much those guys. But Garrett Stubbs, I do think I think personally, I'm not sure if Garrett would get another opportunity elsewhere. I think it would be great for the Phillies to sign him.
That's what I said last week. Yeah,
a minor league deal, and if not a minor league deal, maybe he'd want to come on as staff. I think Garrett would be
as a DJ.
Awesome. Sure, a DJ or bullpen catcher or whatever.
Yeah,
you want to do. But I think he would be a great choice to bring on his staff when he considers his player career to be, winding down a little bit. He loves it. He loves it in Philly. I don't think he wants to go anywhere else.
My battery is about to run out my laptop, which is perfect timing because I've just had the warning come up. For the UK interest, Gabriel Rincon, 77 at bats, 2 home runs, 9 RBIs, an average of 2.73. He got hot later on in the Arizona Fall League.
But read the walk to strikeout ratio.
I didn't get it.
Oh,
was it good?
It was like 11-4. He was great.
There you go. And we will see him in spring as well. No doubt about it.
Just very quickly, did anyone see Johan Rojas yesterday?
Is he injured? Is he not? Yeah, I know. Yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah, the best thing I saw was apparently his first at bat. It was a 4-pitch walk, which is like music to my ears. If that's true, like
he got on base and then
he swings at everything. He got on base on a 4-pitch walk. That's that, and then he got injured, but. We don't know how bad it is.
Yeah,
the
final total was 11-7. By the way, he walked 11 times to 7 strikeouts.
Well, that's an improvement on last year. That's already an improvement from his minors. That's promising.
He's always been pretty patient. I love his approach at the plate.
Yeah, he will be featuring more in spring training. So we are going to see for the UK a Scottish player playing for the Phils, at least in spring. Guys, that is a wrap. I'm speeding this up because I'm worried about my battery. My charger's upstairs. Alex, Richard, thank you for joining me. As always, it's been an absolute pleasure. You guys watching, listening, thank you so much. Please like and subscribe for more fantastic content from these guys. We'll see you again soon. From me, Dave Short, is Ring the Bell. From Alex,
ring the bell, Dave.
And from Richard,
ring that bell.
Yes. Cheers.